Batora Lost Haven surprised me a lot. We didn't hit it off right from the start, but with story advancement the game became more and more interesting, to the point I couldn't stop playing and wanted to see how it all ends. Batora is story-driven action RPG game that costs around $25 and takes about 10 to 12 hours to finish. A review key was provided by a publisher, and as always it doesn't affect my opinion at all. Story revolves around April and Mila, two charismatic characters that have been chosen to save Earth by gods, very imaginatively called Sun and Moon. April inherited godlike powers as chosen keeper of balance, tasked with absorbing core from other planets to save Earth that is inevitably dying. Since this is no spoiler review, I won't talk about specific events and situations April is gonna have to solve. This is where game's writing surprised me positively. Even though a lot of stuff can be easily predicted, as we've experienced stories generally similar to this one many times before, Batora Lost Haven separates itself through its decision making. This is not typical modern feel-good game where everyone and everything survives by the hand of our hero. Not even close. April is gonna have to make tough decisions from the very start. I'm talking genocidal decisions. By going through worlds, new creatures are encountered, each familiar with hero's story because it happened before already by different heroes. These tribes have their own problems to deal with, major problems at that, so they try to enlist April's help due to her godlike power. April at the beginning is sassy, brash, kinda typical modern character that isn't funny even though she tries to be, which is something writers try to do on purpose, I believe. So obviously she didn't resonate particularly well with me. Mila's side character was even more annoying. But that ass... I think writers did April like that on purpose, so when story advances April starts changing drastically due to consequences of her decisions. She starts to lose focus as decisions made start to weigh in heavily on her soul to the point of loss of control and mental breakdowns. She tries to do good, but everything that seems good initially has bad consequences, no matter what decision has been made. I won't go deeper than that to spoil important things, but game is going to surprise players with decisions put in front of them. April is gonna start to grow on you over time, as it is impossible to not feel for her a little bit and for everyone and everything affected by her decisions. Voice acting is really good too, which makes characters more believable. Soundtrack is fantastic, with beats changing to reflect situation in a proper way, be it ambient or action oriented. Visually game looks amazing with beautiful art style. Worlds are vastly different, with each looking really good, populated by interesting creatures and meaningful lore. There is no exploration, which is a shame just because locations are incredibly appealing aesthetically. Aliens are ridiculous, but in a good way. Easy to like and hate, deceitful bastards as well. Pacing is quite good, gameplay loop requires solving puzzles, fighting and participating in story decisions. At the beginning I feel pacing is a bit off due to lack of fights, but it gets better over time with more challenging encounters. Unfortunately, Batora has similar problem to many games I have played lately. It is too easy. Think I've died 4 or 5 times during whole playthrough, and I am not good with this type of combat. So many of you self-proclaimed pros should have even easier time. Puzzles are fantastic, fun and well thought out. Game's aesthetical strength helps in making puzzles look more appealing, but even without it I'd consider them quite good. They become progressively harder as game introduces new elements carefully. What I like is when player fails, puzzles have convenient ways of getting players back into it through well-designed puzzle checkpoints, so that whole sections don't have to be annoyingly replayed as a whole. Puzzles add different dynamic to the game obviously and are well spaced out. As game progresses there is less of them, I feel, with more fighting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Combat is very interesting, dynamic and fun. The game utilizes two mode system, melee and ranged, with two separate health bars. Melee mode is orange health bar, and every orange enemy can be killed much more easily if player is using orange mode. Purple mode is ranged with same effect, so each fight throws different enemy combinations to test players' focus and readiness. Each mode has 4 special moves that have nothing in common with each other except dodge. Important bit that adds significant layer of depth is fact that heals come from special button that is filled through opposite element attacks. So by using purple mode, every attack is going to fulfill orange mode special button that heals and increases damage done temporarily. I honestly have hard time imagining this combat system would become boring to anyone because game is short, sweet and doesn't overstay its welcome. Game uses directional inputs with left and right analog stick for aiming and attacking, which can be problematic to get used to. Took me a long time, but it might be just me. Besides game being too easy, only couple complaints I have are directed to combat. Enemy diversity isn't much and they lack presentation factor. Another issue is impact and overall feel to attacks. They lack weight and potency. Combat sound effects are weak too, which doesn't help. Boss fights are good mostly because of two-mode system that makes every second of encounters hands-on. Aesthetically they look imposing force, but cartoonish style takes all the menace from them. Mechanically bosses have couple different attack patterns for both modes, which is enough to keep it interesting, but little bit more in terms of attack diversity would create far more difficult bosses in a good way. I love when games don't turn on boss damage to almost one hit kill, but instead let players and boss dance a bit without fear of unfair deaths. In that case, bosses need more attack patterns to remain challenging to offset more fair damage distribution approach. Character progression is similar to Darksiders Genesis a bit. Runes are equipped that affect both modes with benefits and handicaps, so careful playing is needed to maximize effectiveness. Character rune slots are divided into three: Defender, Neutral and Destroyer. Neutral is tied to character level and provides only benefits. Defender and Destroyer grant benefit and handicap with each rune. Fantastic thing is that story choices made during the game are either Defender or Destroyer type, so with each decision more rune slots are available for that specific rune type. Nice idea. Completing game twice makes sense due to finality of choices, and thankfully there is New Game Plus where character progression continues, so more build types can be tested. That brings me to final verdict. For me, Batora Lost Haven is a great game, so many good things about it. By far biggest surprise were story decisions that had to be made. Ending disappointed a bit because it took the game out of drastic consequences realm and tried to soften the blow, which I don't appreciate. Besides that, only bad things I can think of are weak combat sound effects, lack of impact and game being too easy. So 8 out of 10 with potential staying at 8. Surprisingly great indie experience. That is all. If you want to help the channel further, check out Patreon and subscribe, star links in the description. See you!